Well, now that I filled my mouth, probably time to get going.
We got to get Bill.
It is.
All right, let's call this meeting to order at 5:30 on January 7th, 2026.
Ooh, nice.
First meeting of the year. All rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, we have a quorum and Jeff should be here soon. And let's go ahead and additions and deletions, which we know we have at least one.
Yeah, the guest presenter is actually, that's part of the elementary presentation, so the kinder school will be under the elementary presentation, the administrative reports. And additionally, we have board business, the 26-27 calendar presented by Joe as an action item.
Perfect. I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Community comments. Do we have any community comments?
No,
Okay. And we're skipping that. So we're right up to Sherry right away.
Oh.
And yeah,
Well, have y'all had a chance to look at the reports? I mean, are there any questions? I have a question for you. So our audit will hopefully be done here in a couple of weeks, and they are prepared to present via Zoom on at the March meeting, if you are all good with that.
when was our March meeting? Is that one?
March 4th.
Yeah, yes.
I'm good with that.
No objections.
I will let them know.
Perfect. Does anyone have any questions for Sherry?
I don't have anything
Yeah, if you want to,
veterans to report.
yeah, and no nuances here, you need to feel like you need to call out.
Just boring.
It's boring right now. It's boring right now.
Yeah, it's fun in the spring.
No, November's my favorite month, and then it's spring. Okay.
Fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board appreciation.
And
what
thank you and
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year. I didn't even say that. Happy New Year, everyone. Okay. Megan, would you like to go
47.
first?
Okay, well, our kinders are making an appearance here. We have a little video for Support Appreciation Month. And we just want to say thank you so much for all that you do behind the scenes to support our students and community. Thank you. Let's see if I
Press hard.
Oh my God. This is over.
Oh.
And the kids made you a little poster. We heard
Big
it's a
poster.
signature. So they all learned what a signature was, and very cute. They had a lot of fun doing that at lunchtime. And just on behalf of the elementary school, we wanted you to have one of our matching shirts. If it's the wrong size, just shoot me an email and I'll get you the right size.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Aw.
Okay, well, I just wanted to do a little update on where we were last time I presented about our belong, prepare, and inspire goals. I'm just gonna re-share the goal with you again and just kind of give you an update on where we are. We have 3 teams, and our first team's our Belong team. Their goal this year is working on implementing a data-driven behavior program that promotes positive behavior, reinforcing school-wide expectations, and just really focusing on being safe, respectful, and responsible. These are the highlights that we have so far. We've established that a consistent, proactive, data-driven behavior framework that's aligned with our expectations. We have implemented student belonging surveys. Those went out, there was 9 questions, and they looked a lot like our youth truth surveys, which I'm gonna share a little bit shortly, but overall, our kids are feeling like they're belonging, they're feeling like they're heard. The team is gonna get together, look at the data, and see where they can make some tweaks so that when we survey them again in the spring, we can see some growth. Launched community building efforts, which includes a cafeteria shout out where they write compliments to each other on a board. And just kind of a cool thing we're proud of is that 98.9 students reported having adults at school who care about them. That was one of the questions in the survey that we were pretty proud of those results. So that just reflects those strong relationships that adults have with our kids at school.
What grade levels did you survey?
We surveyed all of them.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, buttons. Okay. Prepare team. So by the end of this school year, we'd really like 80% of our students to improve their writing by moving up at least 1 performance level on the grade level writing rubrics. So our writing team's gotten together and we've done several things so far this year. We have collected and created a bank of all of our grade level writing rubrics, which has been really interesting. We've been looking at, some grades have a 1 through 5 rubric, some have 1 through 4. So getting together and really talking about, do we want this to look alike? How should that look? And what's best for kids as they move along the grade levels, right? Having it look the same is probably going to be important. We've created a bank of grade level writing prompts. We have scheduled a school-wide on-demand writing assessment. So they'll do that the week of Easy CBM at the end of January. The kids will do a short assessment. They'll do one again in the spring so we can look at some of the growth there. We've been working to collaborate to align, like I mentioned, and then we're going to be taking a team of 8 people to a writing conference in February to kind of pick up some more instructional strategies around writing that we can bring back to our team. So we're moving right along with our writing goal and our prepare team. And our Inspire team, this is the team that created a goal around creating a buddies program where older and younger students are paired together, doing a variety of activities. And this is already rolling. It's been so fun to watch. Every classroom has a buddy classroom, and they're paired together. So 3rd grade goes with kindergarten, 4th grade's with 1st, and 5th grade is with 2nd. And we've developed a student-informed activity bank to guide the buddy sessions. So there's a bank teachers can choose from. Each classroom has already connected at least once, but we're working towards 6 or more buddy sessions as we finish out the year. The Inspire team is also beginning to plan for Career Week, which I'll give you an update on later this year, but we're really excited about some of the things we have planned. And just the one thing that they wrote that they were really proud of was the strong team collaboration, which has just brought some meaningful student connections and some really cute new friendships. It's kind of fun because we have our buddy classes are actually who they go to lunch with. Kindergarten's with 3rd, 1st is with 4th, and 2nd's with 5th. So they see their buddies at lunch as well. So that's a fun connection each day.
Real quick, strong team collaboration. Who's the team that we're talking about? Is that the Inspire team? Is it the student teams?
Yeah, so I think when they were talking about this, they were really talking about the teachers and then the kids collaborating as well.
Cool.
So they do a lot of group activities together and build those relationships. It's pretty fun. We also just finished up our Youth Truth survey, and at Sisters Elementary, we just gave it to 4th and 5th graders. And it's in case I don't know how familiar you are with it, but it's just a survey, research-based that gathers anonymous feedback on kids' experiences related to belonging, engagement, academics, school climate, etc. And I know middle school and high school are both going to talk a little bit about it. So I'm just going to give you a couple little things that are elementary related. We were really excited to have 99% participation in this survey. That it was pretty amazing, I thought. So almost all, but one 4th and 5th grader took it. This is a chart that really just shows that as far as other schools in our state, in these categories, Sisters Elementary is really crushing it. Like our kids did really well on this survey as far as satisfaction, kids being satisfied in a lot of things. We scored in elementary school, we scored the highest in belonging, the 93rd percentile. And there was a lot of growth. There's you can see where they were at November of 2022. There was quite a bit of growth there. Culture, all the way down to instructional methods. And the instructional methods, while we still did well, that's an area that our leadership team is going to start looking at the questions and start building some goals around and, looking at where we can make some improvements. But honestly, when you have a score of over 2.5 in any category, really it's looking pretty good. So I wanted to show you, just a few questions, and this kind of gives you some context to the questions. This one says, do you feel safe in your classroom? You can see how 4th grade answered and 5th. If it's got that yellow, the student put no, I don't feel safe or not very safe. Blue is somewhat, and the gray or beige is yes, very safe. Well, so you can see just kind of how high a lot of our questions look like this, that we scored in certain areas. Another one that was interesting that I thought, in Sisters, we do so many interesting and unique things. And so this question really kind of spoke to that. Do you learn interesting things in school? And we scored quite well here with a few 4th graders who were mad that day. You never know, right? And then this question was one that we probably scored the lowest on, and one that I'd like to take a deeper dive into, which is just, do you feel like an important part of your school? There's a little more no's than I think we're comfortable with. And so we want to start looking at, what does that mean to a student? Why is that? And I think this is something that our Belong team will kind of pair with the other surveys that they're doing and really start to dive in and look at. And then just really quick before I end our update, I just want to share one of the things that we are working on is Easy CBM. Easy CBM is a way that we can evaluate kids really quickly in math and reading. So our current reality is that we've been using something called DRA at the elementary school, which I've learned a lot about. It's like a paper pencil based assessment. It takes a long time to do, requires people to come in and sub out teachers, can be expensive when it comes to subs. There was no way to assess math with it either. We only had iReady. So we have been experimenting with and piloting Easy CBM, which does a quick reading and math diagnostic on students, so we can progress monitor really quickly. Maybe some students we're doing once a month to watch some growth. iReady is a really long test, and they only do that 3 times a year. This is something really quick where we can see some short spurts of growth. And Easy CBM is a great price point. It's mostly free with a couple of exceptions. So we are piloting it with our intervention groups right now and looking at moving to having that for all of our students starting next year. And we're, like I said, we're just really excited about what we're seeing and how quickly we can get results for students. So just a couple things. It's the benefits that it identifies at-risk kids, tracks growth. There's clear visual data for parents. A lot of times when we're trying to explain what we're talking about with kids, the visuals really help. And then it just helps us with decision making around maybe reading groups or math groups during the day. So, all right, that's my quick SCS update. Do you have any questions
How
or?
often do you plan on using this, the easy CBM assessments?
Yeah, so currently we're just using it with kids that we're monitoring
Yeah.
and they're going like every 6 weeks.
6 weeks, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about potentially all kids every 6 weeks, but that decision hasn't been made quite yet. Just because we wanna see what this, just the impact on the smaller group that we have right now, so that'll be a group decision, but I know there's a lot of people pushing for that, just because we wanna get rid of the DRA.
And I think getting rid of the DRA is a good plan, as we've talked about, but also just so under the state accountability bill, both easy CBM and iReady look like they're gonna survive as the,
Okay.
as accepted interim assessments that will be part of the district's responsibility to talk about, report out like we're doing, like we have been actually doing for several years on the interim results to the board. And as Megan said, there is a math component as well, and it's pretty cost effective for us and lines up with best practice. So it's a good supplement to what we're doing already with iReady and meets the criteria by the state.
Is that computer based?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, which makes it quick, so that's helpful. All right, thank you.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thanks for the shirts.
Yes, thank you.
Justin.
Switch of gears. Is that the fire on it? I like the laser. Nice, good evening, everybody. It's quiet tonight. I just wanted to share a little bit about middle school. Megan touched on it. I'm gonna predominantly share our youth truth survey. Share a little bit of the differences from the middle school to the high school and scoring. And share our results as well. Just a reminder again, our goals at North Illinois at the middle school in terms of belong, increasing our mentorship opportunities and activities. And then thinking about prepare, focusing on some math work. And then in Aspire Lane, our champions team, and that was where we are really looking at kids, making sure they're not falling through the cracks, and we're connecting them with adults who are meeting with them regularly and trying to support them as they move through their school year. So those are just a quick reminder on some of our goals. And these are, as Megan talked about from the middle school level, these are there's going to be 5 here, 2 more on the next page, but it's 4 themes. And to kind of orient the differences, the scoring is a 1 through 5 scale at middle and high school level. And as you, Todd, is this a laser pointer? Is it
You can press it, and I think you'll see it. Go ahead and try.
Oh, yeah. No.
No, see it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You hit the lower wall, you
Yeah.
had it.
The far right is this last November, so November 2025. The far left is November 2019. So and then the years count through. So the kind of the neat part for us is seeing kind of those cohorts and then working through that and then continuing on into this year. So yeah, as you can see, we're pretty excited about.
Yeah.
Can you say those years again? I'm sorry.
2019 on the far left.
Yep.
November and November of 2025, the most recent data point on the far right, and then so counting whichever direction, 2021, 22 on up, or counting backwards. So super excited about our growth in engagement this year, and that if you look at engagement on the bar graph, the center-ish black line is where the Oregon schools are. And so you can see where we are at the 81st percentile compared to that. And again, from my lens, I'm always looking at what does growth look like and then what does overall look like. And so both of those, super excited about, super proud of our team, the work that our teachers are doing. I just had a leadership meeting before this and shared with that group that our folks in the classroom are who's doing this work. And we as a team obviously play a role in that, but our teachers and our support staff who are in classrooms every day with kids are making this happen, and we're super excited about it. Same thing you can see in the academic challenge lane, outstanding growth this year, and what we're also proud of is if not the highest, right in line with the highest scores over a trend line that we've ever been. And then our culture number as well is been strong and stayed strong. And again, we're proud of being significantly out in front of the state as well. So the other two categories, belonging and peer collaboration, again, that number at the top and that trend line at the top really speaks to the work that has happened in the building with our staff before me, and again, from my lane, continuing that, wanting to continue that, and we've been able to do that. Super proud of that number, and there's have to work hard to keep it there, but this what happens when you get there, and then the relationship as well. Again, another significant growth piece this year, and also just super proud of the number that's there as well. This is a similar slide to what Megan showed you, but specific to the middle school here. So reading this, you can see the 1 through 5 scale, November 2024 as compared to this year, November 2025. So growth in every area. Again, super excited about that, but significant growth in some places. And again, proud of that. We want to, although 73rd percentile is outstanding, we also want to do, we have some activities planned with staff where they're going to be able to look at this data and dig into this by grade level. So that'll be coming up the group today on how to make that happen. So that's coming up, but again, just proud of the growth, proud of the overall achievement of our staff. And again, just to reiterate, this is not adults saying where we think kids are. These are kids saying where kids are. And I think that's a really valuable piece of information. And it also is pretty current data. This was taken towards the end of November, and we're talking about it in January. So that's really important that there's other surveys out there that it takes much longer to get, and we can actually do something with this and get this back in front of our folks and in front of our kids. So a couple of areas we just took a look at. We'll talk about doing a deeper dive. Again, strong scores and significant growth here, but just in looking at this with some of our leadership team and our counselor, Mr. Jackson, this is just a specific question, and it's right there at the top. What I learned in class helps me outside of school. Again, not a bad score above the state, but maybe not as high as we would want, but we also feel like that is some potential perception data that we have an opportunity to help kids better understand what we're doing, how that does help them outside of school, that as adults, we have an opportunity to help that score improve by some things we can do. But again, we're also proud of the number. And then the work I do, this is just a specific question. The work I do for my classes makes me really think. Again, from my lens, math and science and social studies and all the things are important, but thinking is, we want kids to be able to think, and we want kids to be able to be good people, and want to make sure that what we're doing in the classroom, again, there's some perception data potentially here. But also we want to make sure our kids what we're presenting is making them think and making them work, and they have a role in that as well. So again, some things we'll take a little bit deeper look at as a team. And then this slide just kind of shows after trimester 1 our grade, our GPA work at each grade level. Again, to be in the significantly over a 3-point, again, grades have everybody has different kind of take on grades, but to have our kids significantly over the 3.0 mark as an average in each of our 3 grade levels, super proud of that. And then our attendance data, the one that really stood out to us is our 8th graders are leading the charge on attendance. That rarely happens, at least it rarely happens in my experience. 6th graders often are at that place. So again, just feeling positive about our kids being in class and doing well in class, and and our team doing an outstanding job with our kids. And then just want to say thank you as well for school board appreciation on behalf of the middle school, so.
Thank you so much.
Quick question with your first slide. Yeah, and you were calling out some of the really great numbers and, do you have, I mean, it's still really early days, you just got
This one,
yeah, you're still looking at it. These are pretty dramatic turnarounds.
Yeah.
I'll be curious, maybe at the next board meeting, if you had a chance to sort of dive in and see, get some understanding as like. What's sort of inspired in these big improvements, because like just looking at both the high level data and at the low level data too. We've seen a marked difference between 25 and 24, so it's I'd be curious to understand what's happening there.
yeah, and some of that digging in will be cohort groups, right? There was a group in 2024 that left.
Yeah,
And a group in
absolutely.
2024 that came in, and so really the dig in on that to see, is there any market change in the groups that are still there?
Right.
And then if so, what are we doing differently in the building, or potentially doing differently to get that change? Or did the change come from the 8th graders leaving and the new 6th graders coming in? Again, that's where.
That's our imprint.
Yeah, so that's where, again, to your point, we have to dig into that a little bit
Yeah.
to get a little more information. But yeah.
So I think, just not to jump in with some comment, I think it's also interesting that. You get into a rhythm and kids start to understand what the survey means, and so to give a comment on the elementary data. We had not done it at the elementary for a couple of years because one, it was a transition. Two, at that point, it was 3rd and 4th, and we didn't think the 3rd grade, to pay for an extra school with the data that didn't seem like they really had them for as long. And it was as understood, the feedback from staff. So we stopped doing it at the elementary level. So those kids were really, to some degree, not even in the practice of doing that data or so there was not a lot of, oh, I've done this before, this is what it means, this is what we talked about after the fact, so I remember it, so I can, as a 5th grader, answer it differently than I did as a 4th grader potentially, because there's clarity and you get in a rhythm of taking that. So I think the elementary data, I think we should see some movement as we keep going as well, which is once you get into that kind of cadence, kids understand what you're after.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? Well,
Welcome to you. I was just at your school.
that's right. Good evening.
School board, the week or month or day?
Month.
You get a whole month?
Here.
You know, all of
Almost hers.
Let's get a day. Maybe. Yeah, so Justin sent me his slides earlier and my heart sank a little bit, and I wondered whether or not I was gonna be going first or last, and how my order in the lineup was gonna impact your perception of what we're doing at the high school, but anyway. So just mid-year check-in, I'm gonna run through the 3 categories as well, and it's a little bit of a mix of 3 slides, 1 for each, and it's a little bit of a mix of what we talked about doing and kind of where some of the stuff I'll talk about is YouTube data, but then also some of the things that we're currently implementing that are new or connected to our goals.
You get it.
There we go. So on a belong front, we had our numbers in the fall and winter sports are up this year. In several of our teams, we haven't in the past been able to even field JV teams, and we really crushed it this year in fall, and it looks like in winter as well. Yesterday when we went over to Sweet Home, we had a full bus with both boys and girls and full JV teams and varsity teams for both. Same thing in the fall. We had like 30 plus kids out for soccer, which when I first got here, barely field a JV team. So lots of good news on that front, and that was one of the strategies connected to Belong that we wanted to focus on. Continued focus for our counselors on the Ask a Rant process. Lauren's talked about that in the past, and they're meeting regularly with Kelsey, who's kind of contracted back with us, and that's going really well. youth truth survey relationships, so 67 percentile, so we're on a positive upward trend there, and it's our highest rating post-COVID, and we're real close to where we were from before COVID on that front. And our survey item related to belonging and peer collaboration, 87 percentile, and that for us is the highest since we began doing the survey. So some good news there. We're like Justin was explaining, we'll be digging into the data, the stuff that shows up as being super affirming, and also the stuff that is stuff that we know we gotta continue to move the needle on, which we'll talk about next. So on prepare front, some of the things that we've been trying to do for the last couple of years and then kind of finally turned a corner on, we now have all students have access to Oregon CIS type of, which is the data, or it's the software that the state, or not the state anymore, but it's University of Oregon creates the software that allows students to track the things that they're doing to prepare for post-secondary. And you may recall that post-secondary prep, as you can see right there for us, has always been, since I've been there, it's been our lowest of all the categories. It's been our lowest, but this one happens to be our second highest since we've been tracking. And so I guess in a sense we're kind of moving in the right direction, but we're not where we want to be. And part of that for this year I kind of have down to timing. So the big structural changes that we put in place to try to move the needle on this data are that we implemented the Oregon CIS, and then also all of our 10th and 11th grade students are enrolled in a college and career prep course. But none of them were when they took this test or they took the survey. So our first sections of that began this term, and the survey was taken last term. So we're hopeful that as we continue to implement that course, that we'll start to see some data come back. An interesting another anecdote about that data that that's connected on our Inspire goal is we've got significantly higher rates of community engagement through our Aspire program, which is mentors helping students get ready for next steps. And again, would have been today, but if not for the delay. So tomorrow we're doing the presentation with Dana, that's our coordinator, with our junior students. And interesting enough, this year our junior class was the one that was that had the lowest sense on that indicator, but they're the ones that we're engaging right now, and would have even just started today. So the other one in there, academic challenge 50th percentile, that one's kind of holding steady. It's that's the one I'm most curious to dig into with teachers, because again, there's a sense probably what teachers have of how they're encountering the kids and the things that they're doing in the classroom, and then there's the kids' sense of that. And it's when you sit down and talk about it as a staff, it's it's kind of hard to argue with perception data. But so that's one that I'm excited to dig into with them. And then 97% of ninth graders finished term on track, so that's our highest ever since I've been there. We only have 5 total Fs in the whole freshman class, so that to me is significant progress in that rate. Our goal for the year, I think this is our 4th year of our integrated grant stuff, that the goals associated with the integrated grant, and I think we started at 90 or 91, and we're supposed to track kind of a % of growth each year, which is a little bit contrived because you have to show continuous growth even though each cohort is different. But at least so far we're looking pretty good. A huge bounce back from last year. Last year is the first year since I've been there that our 9th graders did below 90. So yeah. And then all seniors accounted for have a viable plan toward graduation, with only 3 or so needing interventions beyond the classroom. And by that we just mean we're having to do like more than just what's on their schedule. We're probably having to do some backfilling with proficiency and that kind of thing. So and that could change by the end of second term, but it's as good as we've felt in a while at this point in the year, as far as everybody having a viable plan. So
See, when you say accounted for, what do you mean?
so all the I think we've talked about in the past, our grad rate includes students that we don't necessarily know where they are. So if they enrolled with us at any time, left and didn't enroll somewhere else, they're still on our books technically, but we just don't have a way.
Okay, so these are,
maybe they moved out of
these are
state.
students who are alive and well and in
The ones that we have
in
on
your
our books
rate.
and that we're
Okay.
exactly.
Oh, no.
And that even includes some like a few students that are at youth build and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So
Okay.
already. And then for Inspire, I would say we've already met our attendance goal, and yet we want that to be still true by the end of the year. So we met it in the first term, and sometimes the dog days of winter with being cooped up in illnesses, but at least we're off to a good start. We wanted to increase by 3%, from 67 to 78, and we're already up 5%, so that's good.
But I would add into that also, if kids miss a half day for athletics, the state doesn't, athletics, they don't call that out. That's counted as an absence.
It's a double whammy, because if you have a really high rate of participation, then you're up against it a little bit.
And the spring really kills us because of where the time they play, the travel that is required. And so it's, the attendance stuff is a little bit of chasing your tail, quite honestly, with some of the goals, because if you have really high participation rates in your co-curriculars, then you're gonna have kids with a higher absenteeism rate because they're missing school for school-based functions. So.
And regionally, that's about 10% higher than the average in the region. When we got together to do our vision work last year, the data that we were presented with in terms of like schools and regional schools was like low 60s. So we're feeling pretty good about that. And then the other piece is, there's different ways to look at attendance. So you can look at what the average is for your class, which I think is kind of what Justin was doing. And then this is the percentage of students who are who aren't chronically absent, which is the number of chronic absence just means you're lower than 90%. And so those two indicators don't always line up perfectly, because you could have a whole bunch of kids that are 100%ers. But what this is telling us is individual student by individual student, how many kids have missed less than 90% or more than 90%, or more than 10% of their classes. So on engagement front, somewhat steady in terms of the recent years, but we're just kind of holding serve there. Another one that I want to dig in with teachers on, and it's an interesting one because as I'm out and about in the school, like what I see is engagement. And so, but again, what we hope is that what we believe is happening in the way of engagement actually tracks with what students believe is engagement. And so there's work to do there for sure. But again, not a dramatic change from previous years. So again, want to preserve our attendance momentum. Last year was up 6%, and we want to keep that going, move from 67 to 70. And then the last piece there, 65% increase in the number of Aspire mentors connecting with juniors and seniors. So that's huge. So for us right now, we have, if you're going to take the juniors and seniors together, we have a 1-to-6 ratio of adults from the community coming into support, which doesn't mean that all the juniors and seniors are engaging with it, because it's volunteer. The kids have to opt into it. But if they were to all engage, we would be at a 1-to-6 ratio, which is really great. And I think we've talked about in the past that those are banner numbers at the state level. So anyway, righty. So any questions for me?
I have two things I want to check in. One, you mentioned a post-secondary preparedness course early on. Which course is that? Which one are you?
So we're calling it Avid Careers.
Okay, yeah.
It was a way for us to still stay a little bit tied into the Avid program. Basically, when we added that, we didn't have the capacity to continue to also do that and the Avid elective in terms of our FTE plan. And so we're trying to kind of preserve, at least right now, even if it's a name only, some connection to Avid. Two of the teachers that are teaching the class actually are previous Avid elective teachers. So they're integrating some of that. Actually, 30, now that I think about it. Our new teacher from San Diego also was in an Avid school. So so basically it's a trimester long course where they're working through the 12 standards that the state lined out for college and career readiness. And this will be data again that we can integrate into the class.
Yeah, it's tough when as you said, it's tough to really measure that, and then no one's actually take that.
Right. Yeah. So once we get a couple years under our belt of doing that class, I'm hopeful that the kids' perception will change some in that regard. And then same thing with the huge increase in potential engagement with Aspire. So
with a sophomore, knowing that that's on his schedule, it's good to have a little bit more background.
One anecdote about the data that I think is important is that I'm not sure if oh yeah, so in that fourth bullet point, so
Yeah.
seniors track 20% above school average, so that we do pretty well usually with ninth, even though they're new to the school. We have this little 10th grade dip usually. This year it was actually 11th grade, not 10th, which is a change from previous years. And then, but if on some level, we can take some solace in the fact that by the time we're heading out, they've, their perception as seniors is, because a lot of these kids will have had the Aspire, the Aspire mentorship and that kind of thing. So it's nice to see that the things that we're doing with upperclassmen moves the needle.
And then one of your later slides regarding relationships, I was wondering if, I mean, this is all anecdotal and it's coincidental rather than it's correlation, not causation. But if the cell phone policy has maybe moved the needle on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, the way I would highlight that is we're seeing way more connection amongst students. So that's the jump that we had down there. I think it was we jumped about 4 percentiles with the belonging and peer collaboration, whereas the relationships one, it relates to student teacher relationships.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so but it's again moving in the right direction, and the highest one we've seen post COVID.
Might be a positive bump if you're not telling a kid with their phone all the way all the time.
Right, yeah. Well, and I sort of had to do a little bit of filtering of how much data include, but our referrals that aren't related to cell phones are actually way down. So our referrals overall are up because because we're, referrals is a new rule that we're having to enforce. And so, but if you take that variable out, other behaviors haven't increased. And I actually thought that perhaps there would be some adjustment in behaviors without having what would be a very familiar stimulus in their midst, that maybe we'd see an uptick in behaviors. But outside of a couple pockets where we have some kids clustered that have kind of tracked together based on the courses, our ninth graders and our 10th graders, which is where the majority of our referrals tend to live, have been doing really well. So yeah. I think that captures everything. We'll report back later in the year on some of the work that we're doing to engage with the data. And I think the bulk of it's hard to get into the data because we didn't talk too much about subgroups, we got this right before break, and our team hasn't had a chance to dive into the subgroups. But it's hard to really dig into the data in an hour on a Friday. And so it's the kind of thing that we may save for one of our in-service days later in the.
I would also point out some of the interesting questions that we have around the accountability bills are Steve's point of freshmen on track at 97%. When at some point for us with some of our data points, we're not going to reach our goal. Yeah, because the goal, graduation is at 95%. Well, that's going to be a tough thing to sustain a constant upward trend.
Yeah.
Right? And what hasn't been answered is there a cut line? So if you're well above the state average, but you don't meet your goal, do you get a break because you're well above the state? I mean, because if you don't meet your goals, then you can be put into ODE jail and need for improvement, right? And then go through a whole process. And so those questions haven't been answered yet about the accountability process. That still has been in board review that I'm sure we'll get rules on at some point. But
maybe one final anecdote too. Even all of our indicators trend above the state average for schools like ours. Even our lower one that's related to college and career. So that's encouraging. But yeah, maybe just finally that I shout out to the staff and particularly our leadership students. I think there's been a really positive trend in how they engage with their peers and the initiatives that they've been doing. And I'm feel like that had to have been a part of the uptick in our belonging and peer collaboration. So that feels good. And right now there's a palpable shift, it feels like, in just the vibe in the hallways. It just feels, but part of that's the infusion of our ninth graders. They're so good. I get a chance to meet with all the whole group, and it's mostly going to be just celebrating the infusion positivity that they brought. So
Well, I think I think you're 100% right. CIS and then the personal finance course, I mean, kids are gonna get some more real tangible stuff through the system that I think will be positive.
yeah. Alrighty.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Sure. Thank you. Hey, Lauren. Happy New Year.
Board appreciation month.
Year, it's board appreciation.
Yeah. I do sincerely appreciate your time commitment and the work that you guys put into this. It really makes our jobs a lot easier and a lot more pleasant. So I sincerely appreciate all of you and the work that you do. So tonight I thought I talk a lot about different pieces of my job. We talk about counselors or maybe special ed, but I've never really presented on student services and what student services is. And December is kind of my month to look at data. We do child find. So it was just a good time to just put together a little snapshot of what is student services. Cue the music.
I know, I thought that was, that was amazing. Wow.
Those for you, Laura.
Go ahead and let it ring. That was fun.
So last year we did a little bit of teamwork and leadership work with my special ed team, and we got together and did a path where you kind of look at where are you right now and where do you want to go. And part of that work was coming up with our own mission and vision statement for Student Services Department. So as a team, we came up with kind of the definition of what Student Services is for Sisters, which is a department within the Sisters School District, which provides supports beyond classroom instruction to ensure every student can access learning, stay safe, and succeed in school academically, socially, emotionally, and behaviorally. So we came up with that as a team. And then we kind of created our own little mission and vision statement to tie into the district's mission and vision. And we came up with, we ensure all students belong, are equipped to succeed, and are inspired to embrace their potential. So that's kind of our own mission and vision for the Student Services Department. You might ask, what does Student Services cover? There's quite a few things that we all work on, and probably the biggest amount of time that I spend is on special education. Special education, we do a lot of evaluation and eligibility for students with disabilities. We create individualized education plans. We're responsible for all the related services like speech, occupational therapy, augmentative technology, autism support, and behavioral support. That's a lot of compliance work with the Oregon Department of Education and also federal laws around the Individuals with Disability Act. You might hear IDEA a lot. That's kind of our federal law. We do a lot of support for students. I don't know if you know this, but if we have a student who graduates on a modified diploma and they're also on an IEP, we are still responsible for their education until 21. So a lot of people don't know that. So that is part of the transition program that Josh runs at in the back of the high school. So we have quite a few students in the transition program, and they can stay until, even if they turn 21, during a year, they can continue that year. So
When you say quite a few, how many is quite a few? Just
I think we have about 5 right now. Yeah.
Been as much as
7,
Yeah.
8.
Yeah.
It fluctuates, but yeah, we continue to program and be responsible for all of their education until they're 21. So independent living and all of those skills, life skills. And then we also do all the individual programming and specially designed curriculum to meet all of our IEP goals. So that's special education. The next kind of branch is the section 504. So I have 3 case managers for 504s. They are also doing leadership duties in the building. So both Molly and Matt and Jana all do their leadership responsibilities, and they're also working on their 504s. So they're writing a plan for access for students with disabilities to provide accommodations. They write and assess a 504 plan. We serve students who have a physical or mental impairment, and it's basically which limits a substantial major life activity. They oversee the accommodation implementation, so they're communicating with the teachers to make sure that the modifications that are agreed upon are implemented in the classroom. And then we also do compliance under the federal law of section 504.
And the big difference, just to point out, it's always the vernacular. Accommodation versus modification, so 504 is modification, which means you have a little more time. There might be something like that as a change for a student versus either eliminating numbers of questions or an assignment altogether and doing something different. So that's a modification versus an accommodation.
So we're accommodating their disability so that they can access their learning.
Yeah.
We're not changing their
Hmm.
education, yeah. Kind of the third branch is the mental health and behavioral health support. So we have our counselors. We provide comprehensive school counseling. We do tier 1 lessons, which is school-wide. We do tier 2, which is small group. Tier 3, which is individual and family support. We're responsible for the social emotional learning to the Oregon Department of Education standards. We do a lot of referrals, well, not a lot, but we work with our community mental health providers such as Deschutes County Behavioral Health, Mosaic Community Health, High Desert Education District, Safe Fresh Day Treatment, Developmental Disability Services, and we also do warm handoffs with our Care Solace. And then we also provide college and career readiness support at the secondary level. Nursing services, we do health management and care plans. We do medical administration, emergency response, preventative health, such as vision, hearing screenings, communicable disease tracking, health education and awareness. There's a lot of compliance with ODE and regional services, making sure that we have a comprehensive, up-to-date nursing plan that meets their standards. And also we help with student access and inclusion by removing barriers to attending class, providing family support and health resource navigation. I also just want to point out on the bottom right hand is Trish Roy, who's received the Oregon State Nurse of the Year Award in 2022.
Wow.
Yeah, so that just kind of speaks to our quality of our nursing services. And then there's student well-being and safety, which is kind of the pieces that I hold together and participate in, which is a regional student threat assessment team with a High Desert, providing student safety planning and support, a lot of coordination of services with Deschutes County wraparound services to help support families, attending regional safety meetings with the High Desert ESD, regional student services meetings with other student services directors. I work a lot on the compliance of federal and state laws with ODE and all of our reporting, coordination with Deschutes County on suicide prevention, crisis response with the Tri-County response team, and then the district Care Solace administration and our Wayfinder administration. So I just have a little, just a little bit. So I thought this was kind of fun to just to put together a little data snapshot for this school year. So on the left-hand side, if you look at special education, right now we have 127 students on IEPs, which is about 11% of our student population. And our disability categories, 1% of our students on IEPs are in orthopedic impairment, 40% are in specific learning disability, 12% have a speech and language disability, 20% are other health impairment, 14% autism spectrum disorder, 7% developmental delay, 4% intellectual disability, 2% behavior disability. So it's kind of interesting to look at that. We talk a lot about placement in special ed. It's where students are receiving their services. And I'm really proud that 78% of our students on IEPs spend 80% or more of their day in their general education classroom. We only have about 30% or 22% of those students on IEPs that are pulled out for more than 80% of their day. So those are our students with comprehensive needs that spend a little bit more time in their special ed classrooms. I have 8 special ed teachers. 3 are focused on academics, 3 are on life skills, 1 is in behavioral, 1 is vocational, and I have 15 educational assistants spread out throughout all 3 buildings. On the 504 end, for our district, we have 117 students that have a 504. I have 3 case managers for that, 1 in each building. Nursing services, I just pulled this number out of Synergy, which sounded really high, but I have 333 students who have some sort of medical touch point need nursing from the nursing staff. So I have 2 nurses supporting 3 buildings, for everything from medical administration and acute needs to, just,
To be clear though, that could be a parent who sent Tylenol to the school.
yes, yes.
And they
Yeah,
have it on
could be,
file.
yeah,
They-
anywhere from
Yeah.
a diabetic student who needs, treatment every day versus, a monthly, but yeah, that's a good 25% of, or 30% of our students with some sort of touch point with our nurses. Counseling services, tier 3 are those one-on-one intensive referrals, students needing extra support. We have about 60 students in that tier 3 throughout the district. Tier 2 are more like just kind of check in, check out, or maybe some skill building groups. We have 236 students that receive those supports. And then tier 1 is just that baseline of all of our students together. We've had 7 case referrals that we've had to refer outside of our district, either to Deschutes County or through Care Solace, who are just needing extra care that we're not able to provide. So you might ask yourself, why is it important to have a high functioning student services department? It really matters. It removes the barriers to learning so that every student is prepared to succeed. It builds belonging by ensuring that students feel seen, supported, and connected to the sister school district. It provides whole child supports, both academic, behavioral, social, emotional, special education. It strengthens family and community partnerships, which also reflects the values of the sister school district. And it really turns our mission into action by helping every single student prepare, belong, and inspire. But most importantly, I think about student services as helping all of our students just get ready to learn. The work of all of our teachers in every building, and it helps improve graduation rates and success for all students district-wide. So I really think about student services as getting all students ready to learn so that they can access their education. And that's it.
Well,
You guys have any questions? I just love looking at all these friendly faces and all the hard work that they do all year long.
that's a lot. I don't know what else to say.
That's student services.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, it's amazing. Anyone
Thank
have
you.
any questions? Thank you so much. Hey, Mr. Scholl.
So, our trends are about the same in enrollment. I had a couple of kids, out again. But more steady and consistent. Still under our projection, which is, a little bit concerning. And I think probably at this time too, just want to reiterate, conversations about where we're going with budget and, remind everyone that student enrollment is low, that's a factor. HR1 is a factor because the state of Oregon income taxes are directly connected to the federal tax rate, so that's a big deal. The cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and the services and the revenue that generates in our state between the tax cuts and that, they're estimating $1.8 to $1.9 billion impact on the budget. So I just want to be clear, if things were moving forward the way they were, they'd actually be looking at a budget that was in the plus column by about 300 million versus the changes in the tax code that are creating what we're going to feel in the rest of this biennium and rolling into the next biennium. That, along with our PERS rates, just the cost of doing business. So I just want to be clear, not to be a negative Nelly, but just to be clear about what that means. Right, the economy is generally still doing pretty well. It's those impacts that are going to cause those pressure points. And so even though our student enrollment is down, it's not devastatingly down. It's just another piece on top of the other financial problems, right? So that makes it kind of compounds the issue. So I just want to be clear about that yes, we're not where we want to be. But that's a factor outside of the bigger impact that's coming. So, district asset update, things went smoothly over mostly smoothly. We had one issue with the notary, so I had to make 2 trips into Benton to get the transfer happen, but we got it taken care of in case I had to come down and sign things. And so we got that taken care of. Working on the other pieces, we're still at a point.
Can
Sorry.
you back up on that point real quick?
Yeah.
What was that again? That was for the.
Cloverdale.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we're very
It's a
clear.
done
Yep.
deal.
So it's a done deal, the transfer.
It was
In 2020.
registered with the county. The transfer happened before Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah, so, so we're working in partnership to make sure that Heart of Oregon is still whole. So we're not unhooked completely, but it's, that part of it is done. So the next is continue to work on other district assets. I may have shared this in the last round, but we have in looking at the zoning, we have a common parking lot between the library, the city hall, and here. Impacts future use and what that could look like with this property. But we are continuing forward with the application to rezone, divide, not only this to business, but the 1.7 acres on where the old transportation building is to look at residential. Based on the code and the smaller lot sizes that you can go to, there's somewhere between 12 and 14 lots that could be put on that piece of property based on the way it lays out, meeting the fire codes and the other things. So we're again moving forward with that. We finally got some designs back from Cloverdale that eliminated a couple of things that we thought we might want to do, but they were things that would have to require additional engineering, and that means expensive. So we said, no, we can leave. We said, cut that beam and 45 it and make it more aesthetically pleasing. We can have a squared off hallway. So just some stuff that we had put in an initial plan. And so we got some.
You didn't mean Cloverdale.
Oh,
You meant,
Coalfield.
he meant
Thank
Cloverdale.
you.
I want to make sure that.
I
So
know.
looking at the transition of this, that being the
Sure.
future home for the district office. Right now, construction costs, I mean, just general estimates and what the market is, were I think might be prohibitive. So we're poking around to see what with the general plans that we have, again, not the fully drawn engineering plans, but just running some of the concepts by a few contractors just to see, okay, what's the ballpark? What are we talking about? What are we thinking this would look at? We've divided that kind of process up into 3 phases. One would be the initial one to make sure we have the office space we needed to serve the folks that serve the district. And then 2 is looking at some other things that maybe a better access for a couple of the bathrooms based on if we ever wanted to house the preschool there, which is what it was kind of designed for. Looking at where the boardroom would be, and do we need to move a wall to give us a little more space, right? Some stuff in that regard. So we've kind of parsed that out. And we'll continue to look at that. I think in the work session, we will talk more specifically about some of the updates and just general conversations about philosophy, where we want to go, what those triggers look like, what we're thinking. Is it get something done at all cost? Is it not? So we'll have more conversations in the work session around that, but those processes are moving forward. They are very slow. We've had 2 meetings with the city already, one with 5 people and the next one with like 14 people. And so we're just continuing to move through the process. It's been productive and we are moving through it, but we're continuing to get there. I think the other thing I would give update, the accountability bill, which we kind of spoke of, still some rulemaking happening. We'll get more guidance on that. I gave an update on budget. The accountability bill, don't mean to glance over it, but we have been doing what they're asking, which is talk about interim assessment data. We've been talking about iReady Youth Truth. Our administrators come to the board and have done that as a part of our feedback cycle for the last couple of years, so it's not really anything that I think is gonna be a big impact. The questions that haven't been answered yet are, what does it mean if you don't hit some of your goals? If you hit some but not all, right? When do you get into the needs improvement, the ODE directed piece? There was a financial piece that was connected to it. It sounds like that's getting a little derailed because basically the Department of Ed wanted to have every district redo the way they record every budget item. It would have added, Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, 9 digits to about each code. 11. And
Well, that's important.
yeah, and
It's a lot.
it would have been their system, so basically they could have dug into your numbers and told you what you were doing wrong and how you weren't spending your money appropriately. A ex-superintendent of the year, Heidi Seid from Utila, got on the call and said, well, I got an ODE gel because you said we weren't spending our money on, they have a high Latino population, that we weren't spending our money on our Latinx population. And then this other district was, so I called them and asked them what they were doing. It was just a matter of how they coded the funding, right? And so we recoded the funding and all of a sudden we were magical again. So all this work for something like that doesn't seem like it's really, there's a reward in output, because it didn't change what they did, it just changed how they coded something and added 11 digits to a code. So we'll see.
21 digits.
Yeah, yes. So
Excellent.
so there's some interesting stuff that is come through. Right now, they're really working. There was some conversation about trying to get a bill through that would reconnect the Oregon or disconnect the tax code from the feds. But because of if you read the nugget the other day, the stuff connected to the governor's plan on attracting business to the state, that would be counterproductive to what that initiative does, because it would connect all, and they're trying to decouple that. So that doesn't feel like it's going to get a lot of political traction. I believe what it's going to be in the future is a lot of advocacy. In the last 3 biennium, I've come to the board and talked about how our percentage of the state school fund going to the Department of Ed has decreased over the last decade. And I can see with where we're headed, we're gonna have to lobby hard for that to start going in the other direction to continue to support the funding we need, because there's gonna be less revenue coming in. So that's both macro and micro. I will again say, we had some challenged leader scheduled a Friday PD. We had all our administrators in doing speed of trust with Stephen Covey. Was great. Actually, it turned out to be a really good day to when no one else was in the district and we were in the room reflecting on kind of philosophy and how to move forward and where we were going when kids are coming in the next week. So turned out to be okay. And I would say, we've got a really good team. So we're in a good place. Excited about what the spring's gonna bring. That's it for me. Questions? All right, Joe, calendar.
Good evening. I too would like to thank you. More than you know, your 10 years and wasn't a great start, and so I can appreciate you more than you know.
There's a backstory there.
So I'm here to ask for you to approve. I'm here representing a group of staff from an admin, licensed, certified, classified staff and board, to ask for you to approve the 2026-2027 calendar. And I think I first need to thank these folks for giving their time to the calendar committee. While we didn't spend as much time as we have in the past, I think that I would like to thank them even more, because we were efficient, it was collaborative. We got into some deep conversations about a few things, which I'll explain. And
Eric,
I don't know what happened.
Where did these pictures come from?
Yeah, so it's not, they're not,
Oh,
they all
those are
come
volunteer
from,
pictures.
I'm gonna
Sneaky.
stretch it, Jamie.
And also.
Chris Adams over there now.
I know. Sorry.
I should have, as I was doing, I should have taken a picture of the group one day. There's a lot of check boxes to do, but we do work with a constraint of a lot of things as well. But we have to go through these things, and each one took a little bit of time. So it's just, I'm not gonna, I can send it to you, but I'm not gonna go through each one because I already did. And so what I'd like to do is bring it right to the calendar. Do you have a calendar? Because okay. So I'll highlight some of the major changes that that happened from this year and last year. Probably the major change we'll see that we're starting before Labor Day. That's the big one. And if you just look at the end of this.
Can I bring up the water to do that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you'll notice that we almost don't have a choice unless you want to end in July 4th. Kind of thing. If I mean, we have a choice that we discussed, and that was one of our long meetings that I think that the Asa and Eric might bring up at some point in time to talk about starting even earlier at some point. So that was one of the bigger changes. Another big change that you'll see is that November is cleaned up a little bit. And that's a change over the last 2 years, maybe. But you'll see that hopefully they're not saying no school November. And so December, and what it did was, more importantly, is that, well, we can take our hits. It more importantly evens out the trimesters.
And it'll end the breaks with the start of like coming back after spring break after finals and starting.
Well, this one is worse than this year.
Yeah.
Than doing that, but it's because we now come back and we start. We have finals in December, so we come back after break. And we thought that's not the big of a deal. It's better to the group getting the input of the teachers said it's better to have equal time, even more time at the very beginning, because they do a lot of teamwork at the very beginning of the year. And then lastly, if you just glance, if you were to compare to this year, you'll see that our buildings are more aligned with conferences in time off. And they thought, the committee thought that was important for families. One of our philosophies has been, or I should say Kurt's, which I appreciate, is that, let the buildings be the buildings. We'll do what's best for the community for sure, but let the buildings be the buildings. And sometimes there are just some things that didn't connect. And so we just, other than that, I think that we have a really same calendar, but when you just look at it, comparing it to this year, it looks a little clearer. If Eric, did you want to add anything? And if I missed, I thought those were the three big things.
Yeah, I think, you touched on all the really important points, which were, trying to rebalance the trimesters so that we had equal, more or less, equal days of learning throughout all of them, so that kids in one trimester would be less shortchanged potentially by having compressed curriculums versus if people later. I really appreciate the alignment of conferences. I think that makes things a lot more consistent for families and multiple, particularly families that have children in multiple buildings. And it just creates more consistency that they can sort of plan their days and their lives around that, and ensuring that, and then also balancing that the needs of the teachers to be able to have those touch points with the parents at the right time too. I think that was a really fine needle to thread, and I think we did a really good job of finding a good compromise with that.
Yeah, and that's a good point, is that we're conferences, the conferences are evolving. And so we can get to people a little bit differently. We talk to our families a little bit differently. And so, we now have student success teams that can take their Fridays, or the principals have dedicated time that the grade level student success teams are meeting, and they'll be reaching out. And so there's some flexibility that the conferences aren't going to look like they did 20 years ago.
And the other thing I wanted to call out too, I think by virtue of the alignment of some of the conference scheduling too, the gauntlet of April through May, we've got a couple more points of breathing room in there too, which is important both for Making sure that we have those touch points, but also bring a pause so that people can get that breath, catch their breath as well. So it's a very long stretch. It's the longest that we have on the entire calendar.
And it always has been.
It always is, yeah, it's universal, but.
I think, and looking ahead, I think this is a great calendar. I think the reality is that starting the week early because of the way the holiday weekend fell this year, next year, we knew this was coming. But it brings a bigger conversation with the board, which is, at one point, the board had the philosophy, previous board had the philosophy of starting after the holiday weekend, period, end of story, full stop, and whatever the calendar did, that extended you to whenever. Right, well, when we brought back a 2-week spring break because it was highly desired, well, highly-ish, mainly as a recruiting port for staff. That created some really going long into June. And so I think that's the conversation is, my first 3 years, we started the week earlier. Then we got in this kind of middle period where the calendar changed and we were starting on the Tuesday after the holiday, right? And now we're kind of back by necessity based on where the holiday falls. But I think it's a bigger conversation for the board to have about that 2-week break and those other breaks and what that does for the cadence of the year. So.
Yeah. I've done this a couple times. This seemed like an easier year. I don't.
Yeah, I was a little concerned because we had new, and so sometimes they ask the basic questions first, but we did have them ready to work, and so I was really grateful. But it is collaborative. It was extremely collaborative, and we asked some questions, and the way it went, it made me think, can we be more efficient? And so I have a new proposal that I'm going to be proposing to the administrators this week, and so I'll be bringing that up if they like it. Because our administrative team really is, the building administrators are cool, are meeting regularly. They get along, so I think that bringing it into the buildings for the first few meetings, and then bringing it to the committee for maybe one final meeting. I'll discuss that with them first this week, and then just see. I think that you nailed it there. I think we can be more efficient.
I think because of the opinions and the variations, it seems like there's been a lot of work every year, and really you shouldn't have to recreate the calendar. I mean, you should be able to find something that works well for you and roll it in based on some of the changes of the dates. There will be some weird years where things fall, but mostly it should get I've not seen many other districts spend as much time on the calendar as we do. I'll just put it that way. Especially early on. I mean, it's gotten streamlined under Joe's leadership to some degree, but my first 5 years, it was a constant debate. So.
Sweet. All right. So questions?
J1 says 1st to 12th. Will sophomores, juniors, and seniors
So
be in the high school that day?
So the first day is orientation day. Can you scroll down for me, Todd, so I can see September? The first day is middle.
Okay, there we go.
And then it's orientation. So we essentially can't count that, the middle school and high school. can't
Okay,
count that.
I got it.
So we'll have that in, on the
Yeah.
31st, and then really the first full day will be
Yeah.
the first.
Just wasn't
And we've
paying
done
atten-
that for each.
Wasn't paying
years, but I
attention
think
very
we've done-
well.
Pardon?
I wasn't paying attention very well.
No, it's a valid question.
No, well,
Yes.
Well, it breaks the screen. 31st is the Monday, and then
yeah,
so it's the way it jumps from the calendar.
tried to
Yeah.
fool me.
I do want to say that first and foremost, Joe, I really appreciate your leadership on this. That was incredibly thorough. It really kept us on point. We had very clear deliverables in terms of like what we were intending to do, and so I really appreciate how well it went. Yes, there was still a lot of conversation that needed to happen, but it felt it was all very constructive and we were all pulling toward the same end. Also, I want to thank Amy too for all of her work in compiling this.
Yeah.
This is not a
Sure.
trivial feat. And like to have something so ready to go to actually help us really have a good basis to have fruitful conversations was a real leg up and made that process a lot easier. So thank you to both of you,
Yeah,
and also
thank
thank you to all the rest of the committee members as well. was a real pleasure working with you.
That's been a highlight. I used to not enjoy it, but it.
Actually, no, let me paraphrase. Joe goes, this was such a good year. I think I might be okay doing this again. I'd be okay leading this group again.
Does anyone else have any questions or concerns about the calendar before we vote on adopting the calendar?
Right, well, I move that we approve the 26-27. Yes, 26-27 calendar.
As presented.
As presented by Joe.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, consent agenda. Regular board meeting minutes and adoption of the consent agenda. Anyone have any concerns about the consent agenda before we adopt it?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Announcements. We have a January 7th today board work session about the superintendent evaluation here momentarily. And then on our next meeting is February 11th. That's not the first Wednesday, that's the second Wednesday. Regular board meeting and also a work session following that about the superintendent evaluation. And that should end our meeting for the evening until
think,
the next one. Or
Just
do
as
I-
we're moving into I think we're talking about the process for my evaluation. I think we're also gonna talk about I got some maps to show people that.
Yes.
That folks.
That
are
wasn't
showing.
on this. Do we need to add that before we?
Yeah.
We can amend it before we start.
Okay, I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
because- Okay. Uh, meeting adjourned at what is it, 6:51?